Tonight's recipe can be as few as 5 ingredients, maybe even 4. We are making a bruschetta chicken. Not only is this just a couple of ingredients, but we are also using up that leftover salad dressing. The first thing that we're gonna do is marinate this chicken. I went ahead and made my own copycat version of the Olive Garden dressing. It is so good. It is absolutely as good as the Olive Garden dressing, or maybe even better. And it took seconds to make. It comes together in no time at all. And I love the ingredients in this too. I know exactly what's in it. It is so good. So we're gonna marinate the chicken in this. All we're doing is cutting open 2 chicken breasts, and you guys know I love to slice them in half to make them a little bit thinner. I'm just gonna put them into a baggie and pour some of this dressing over the top. We are probably using in between 1/2 and 3/4 of a cup of this dressing, but you can use as much as you feel like you need. Just massage that into the chicken in that bag. We're gonna let it marinate until we're ready for dinner. I think you could even make this the night before and then have it ready for dinner tomorrow. Let's talk about the several different ways that you could make this bruschetta chicken. You could grill it, air fry, instant pot, oven, stovetop. I mean, truly, there are so many ways to go about this one. I personally am gonna make mine in the air fryer because I think it's about to rain. That was gonna be my first option, was to grill it. The oven is gonna take in between 30 and 40 minutes, but the air fryer is gonna take just a couple of minutes, and I feel like it's gonna be so good. If you are choosing the oven method, you're gonna put down your chicken onto a foil or parchment lined baking sheet, preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and then lay your chicken out. Then you wanna put a layer of mozzarella cheese onto the top of it and a layer of the tomato mixture that we are about to make. And then it's gonna go in your oven for about 35, 40 minutes, depending on the size of your chicken breast. I'm doing mine just a little bit different because we're making it in the air fryer. I'm actually gonna start by putting the chicken in and letting that cook for a little bit, then add the mozzarella, then add the tomato mixture. So we wanna spray this nice and well so we don't have any sticking, and then take our chicken out of the bag, which has been marinating all day, and you know it's gonna be good. Okay, I'm just gonna have to wash my hands here. So far, we've only used 2 ingredients. We've got our dressing and the chicken. All right, now what I've found with my air fryer and chicken that we usually put in there is that it usually only takes about 12 minutes. So I cook 6 minutes on one side, 6 to 7 minutes on one side, and then turn it over. So while this is in the oven, we're going to hurry to get the rest of it done. This part is absolutely optional, but I did not put a lot of salt in the marinade. So we're gonna top ours with this Kevin's all-purpose seasoning. So this is ingredient number 3. But I think you could skip this one if you're using the actual Olive Garden version, because I do think that that one is pretty high in sodium. So I'm just gonna top this with a little bit of the all-purpose seasoning. Feel free to just use salt and pepper. I cook mine on in between 365 and 370. I go back and forth. So these are gonna go in, and I'm really hoping that at the 6 or 7 minute mark, when I'm ready to turn them over, we've got the tomato mixture and the mozzarella ready to go. That's my plan, so we're gonna work quickly. Are we ready? Let's go. I've got some mozzarella cheese here, and this is just this Italian style whole mozzarella cheese. Now, usually I do shred this up, and I still think that you can do that and just top the chicken with shredded cheese. But I figured before I go ahead and shred it, I could just cut some slices, and then I can lay the slices on top of the chicken. So that's what we're going for. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut up some slices. They don't have, not that one, that didn't turn out very well. They don't have to be perfect, just a few of them here and there. Just good enough that we can lay this on top of the chicken. And then I'll end up shredding the rest of it, but not right now because we are trying to work quickly. Oh man, I didn't even wash the tomatoes yet. It's okay, we're gonna be all right. They're from the garden, so I know that they don't have pesticides on them, but still, I like to give them a little rinse. Now for this, you can use whatever kind of tomatoes you want. I do think that these little cherry tomatoes are really perfect. So I'm cutting them into probably 8s, whatever's easiest. But we have Roma tomatoes over here. We've got, what I think they're called beefsteak tomatoes. They're nice and large. I could use those too. It really doesn't matter. Some of these I'm just gonna quarter because they're a little smaller. Oh, let's go ahead and get some dressing in there so it can be marinating. So I'm just gonna marinate these in a little bit of that Italian dressing. We don't need much. and I'm gonna stir it around. That's it. I'm literally not doing anything else other than that. But you could do an olive oil and just marinate them in some olive oil and balsamic. Now, obviously this dressing does not have any balsamic in it, but it does have really good flavor. And there is some vinegar in there, so you are still gonna get that vinegar taste. Also, some green would be really pretty in here. So if you have some parsley, which I do, I may top it with some parsley. Obviously that is another ingredient, completely optional and just for color. So up to you how you wanna handle that. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of that Kevin seasoning into this. And look, we have a minute to spare. Nailed it. And it may end up taking a couple more minutes this time. Interesting. Normally it is right around 12 minutes, but I'm gonna go ahead and top the chicken with the mozzarella cheese. Okay, let's do another let's do 6 minutes. And then we're gonna take it out and go about 1 minute with some of that bruschetta on the top. We've got a little bit of browning on that cheese, which is what I was wanting. Now I'm gonna top each one of these with a little bit of that tomato mixture, and also I did add some parsley because I just couldn't take it without the green color. I also think it's a good idea to save a little bit of the tomatoes for the side. I just think it serves well with it. And then I'm just going to cook this for about 1 more minute so that the tomatoes can warm up. We've got some really beautiful color. It smells good. Let's try this. It is cooked on the inside. We do like to see that. That's really good flavor. It's definitely a good idea to marinate the chicken in that dressing because it just infuses in that chicken and makes it really, really good. I do think I could have gone 1 minute less on the air fryer, but that is why I love that thing because it cooks your food so fast. Crock-pot meals are convenient any day of the week, but they are extra convenient for us on Sundays. One thing that I really like to do because it sets our family up for success on Sundays is putting something in the crock-pot before we head out to church. Then when we get home, it's almost ready to go or ready to go. This is one of our favorite recipes to have. My kids love this. And a little backstory on this one, the very first time that I made it was, I think about 3.5 years ago or so. I actually was sick and I did not have any taste. And so we sat down to dinner and everybody was talking about how good this one was and I could not taste it at all. So I obviously had to make it again after I got my taste back, and we have repeated this recipe so many times. The first thing that I'm gonna do is take a really large can. This is a 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes. Now you can use 2 smaller cans if you want. You could add more liquid if you prefer a more soupy texture to this, but we usually just use the 1 can of the petite diced tomatoes. We've also done this with the tomatoes that have basil in it, the one with Italian herbs in it. You can use the fire roasted. Doesn't matter. You can use whatever your favorite flavors are with this. Now at this point, I like to add all of our favorite spices, and sometimes it will be Italian seasoning and oregano and basil and salt and a couple things like that. Sometimes I add onion powder, garlic powder. We're keeping it really simple. I'm getting ready for church this morning and I'm just gonna throw in some Italian seasoning and some salt and pepper. So dump that all into your crock pot, and then we are going to be using some Italian sausage links this time. So like almost like a bratwurst. You don't have to use that. Many times we have done ground Italian sausage and I just cook it over on my stovetop first and then put it all into the crock pot. But we are going with the links. I just found these in our freezer, and so I thought these would be perfect. I'm just gonna slice these into coins or bite-sized pieces and then throw all of those into the crock pot as well. Now, the good thing about using the links or like the bratwurst style is that you don't have to pre-cook it. You don't have to worry about sauteing it first. This is just so easy. I can put this meal together in under 5 minutes. Now, what I typically do is I will take it just at this point, stir it all together and set it on low for about 3 to 4 hours. It doesn't take long at all for this to cook. You could do this on high if you want to, if you only need like a 2 to 3 hour window. But when I set this on low, I know that we're good to start this at 8 o'clock in the morning and then come back from church and have it at 1 o'clock. And it's gonna be fine. Nothing's gonna overcook, which is really hard to do for this recipe anyway. We are home and now it is time to finish up this recipe. I've done this several different ways. Sometimes I add cream cheese into this and sometimes I don't. Today we're gonna add in about a half a block of cream cheese. I do think it adds a richness to this recipe, so I'm adding that in, but like I said, I have made this like a 3-ingredient recipe before too, where I take the can of diced tomatoes that have the Italian herbs in it already, put in some Italian sausage, and then do the tortellini. And you've got 3 ingredients and it's perfect. I just think I'm not making a 3-ingredient meal right now, or I'm not attempting to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and toss in that half block of cream cheese and just let that sit for just a minute so it starts to melt and I can incorporate it in. We're also gonna be using this family-sized bag of tortellini, and I'm gonna dump the whole thing in here. Typically for us, I find that this takes about 25 minutes or so to cook and to be al dente. You do wanna be careful not to overcook this part of the meal, because if the noodles overcook, then they're just get a little bit mushy. So we usually go right between 25 and 30 minutes, stir it all together, and it's ready to serve. It is so good and so easy to make this. And it's ready to go. Now I can put this into bowls. That's how we like to serve it. It's kind of a soup, kind of not a soup, because you can make it more soupy if you want by adding more chicken broth in, but we like ours a little thicker, so that's how we usually make it. Okay, we're gonna use regular scissors. My herb scissors are in the dishwasher. And we're gonna add some parsley to the top. Not quite as finely chopped as what I would normally do with the herb scissors, but you gotta have some color there. Okay, this is probably the 20th time I've made this, so I already know how we feel about it. I've also made it with ground Italian sausage instead of cutting up the lengths. You can do it however you want. Either way, it's totally fine. And I feel like we either add or take away things each time we make this. It just adjusts, but this is a very basic recipe that can be ready very quickly and with very little effort. It's so good. It's so easy to make, and it's so good. And it's hearty, and we usually have leftovers, which makes it even better. There's nothing I don't like about this recipe. I also love how this reheats really well. We'll put everything into one of our storage containers, and then we can have this for lunch tomorrow too. You guys, this recipe is just so easy. It's so good. We sat there at the table and just finished eating, and now I'm gonna put our leftovers away. And every time we sit down with and have this one, we just think, how is this only 4 ingredients, 5 ingredients, 3 ingredients, depending on how you make it? And it's just so good. It's so easy. Literally anybody can make this. I love it. This recipe is really, really easy, comes together quickly. It's only 5 ingredients. It's all in a casserole dish. It's got great flavor, and it is gonna be filling. It is so perfect. I'm telling you guys, this is one of those that you can have on repeat because you're gonna love it. We are starting with some potatoes that I've just diced up. These are red potatoes. I washed and diced. I didn't peel them though, just because we prefer to keep the skin on. We're just gonna blanch these. So we're really just cooking them for a couple of minutes. You can feel free to skip this step altogether if you want and just use frozen potatoes. You do not have to make your own, but we already had these, so it was just easy to go ahead and dice these up and get them blanched and do it that way. After these are cooked, we are going to drain them off, and I'm gonna let them cool for just a little bit before I end up working with them. We also need to brown up some ground beef. I'm using a lean ground beef for this recipe just because of some of the other ingredients that are going to be in here, but you could also use a less lean ground beef and then just pour off the excess grease and fat. We're just gonna brown that up and then set that to the side. All right, so we have our 1 pound of ground beef here, cooked that, and I just let it drain off on a paper towel, even though it already was really lean. I actually set this in the refrigerator for a few minutes because I cooked this a little bit earlier today. I'm gonna add a cream of base. Feel free to use cream of mushroom or whatever it is that you like. If you guys have been here for a while, then you know we typically just make our own cream of base because it's really easy to make, and then I know exactly what ingredients are in it. But if you really wanna stick to this 5 ingredient thing, then you're gonna use a can of like cream of mushroom or something. So let's add in the whole thing. If you make your own like I do, 1 recipe will equal what a can of cream of would be. I'm gonna go ahead and start to incorporate it with this beef, just mixing it together. Now I'm gonna take our potatoes that we drained off, we cooked and drained off. We're gonna add these into the bowl, and we're gonna feed some to the floor and to the counter. because that's what we do. And like I said, I just blanched these. I did not cook them all the way because I want to make sure that they hold their shape. That's just my preference here. So this is very similar to a shepherd's pie. You do not have to, you can make it more like a shepherd's pie, but this is just changing it up a little bit, making it a little bit different. All right, so I thought I actually had a whole bag of cheddar cheese, but I don't. I only have like a quarter of a bag. So I'm gonna shred up some mozzarella, but basically you just need cheese. So I'm gonna add in some cheese into this. We really need about a half cup to go in here and then about a half cup to top the casserole with. So even though I didn't think I was gonna be using my cheese shredder today, it wouldn't be a normal day in the Byrd house without using it. So here we go. Now I do think that a cheddar is the most ideal cheese to use here, but we're working with what we have considering that it is 4:30 and I'm not going back to the grocery store. All right, so we're gonna add a little bit more in here. Also, I keep getting interrupted today. We have a couple of trees that are coming out of our yard. So there's a lot of noise. All right, so we currently have 4 ingredients here. And the 5th ingredient for me is actually gonna be some parsley that I'm just gonna add color. You could also add like green pepper, green beans, peas, whatever you like to add to this kind of thing. But I am gonna add parsley. We just don't prefer things like peas or green beans in a recipe. We prefer to have them on the side. All right, let's give this 9x13 a good spray. We're gonna pour all of this in. Crazy simple, like such a simple casserole. Okay, let's top this with a bit more cheese. Now I'm gonna cover this with foil because I wanna make sure that we don't burn the cheese on the top while everything is coming up to temperature in the casserole. We are preheating our oven to 350 degrees. This is going to bake for about 35 minutes with the foil on, and then maybe 15 to 20 more minutes with the foil off. This recipe is so perfect for any weeknight, so simple to make, and it's really filling with great flavor. We all really, really loved this one. Our verse today comes from Hebrews 1:1. In the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, and through whom also he made the universe. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you need more inspiration in the kitchen, check out the video that I have listed above. Awesome recipes in this video. You guys are gonna love these as much as we do. I hope you're having a great week.